It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, was Testament from the album The Ritual with a tune called Troubled Dreams. And on the line right now are three guys that do not have troubled dreams at all. In fact, they're living the dream as part of the Metal Allegiance, which is out there playing some shows right now. Of course, it's Mike Portnoy, it's David Ellefson, and it's Alex Skolnick. Guys, how are you?
What's up? All right, good on.
Excellent. Well, guys, Metal Allegiance, for people that don't know, it's this collection of fantastic metal musicians that pretty much anybody that's into metal knows. And you guys are out there, playing the music, some of the most historic songs in metal, metal history, stuff that I'm sure is influential to you guys in one way or the other. So, I'll throw this one to you, Mr. Ellefson. How did this project form, and how did you and then the other guys get involved with this project?
Well, years back when we were doing the Big Four stuff, back in the olden days, about 5 years ago, Frank Bello and I started doing some bass clinics together, which was really kind of unprecedented for metal music, and especially for two members of the Big Four to be doing it. I think the Big Four set the stage as far as just this, the competition's gone. We're all brothers in the same neighborhood kind of thing. And so the bass clinic started that, and then Mike Portnoy and Charlie Benante jumped in, and we started doing these bigger events. And from there, Kerry King, Scott Ian, Phil Anselmo, and I mean, everybody from the neighborhood started getting the call, and it's so funny because we're like all these, grown-up men, supposedly, but it's like we're all just kids who sit in the basement all sharing records with each other. We're like, nothing's changed, at all. And it's cool to find that after all these years, we've shared the stages playing on tours before, and certainly our records have competed against each other on the charts and on MTV and all these kind of things over these years. And now here we are all these years later. And we find that we're all, we could all basically swap and play in each other's bands, and that's really what Metal Allegiance is it takes away all of the competition, and everybody pulls together, and now everybody's just like, hey, I know this song, hey, you know that song, I know that song, and it's just this constant revolving door of guys up on the stage jumping in and playing, and the fans just love it. We saw that especially with the Big Four. We've seen it with the Clash of the Titans before. So we're just kind of really hitting our stride, I think, as musicians in the metal community. And it just goes to show that as much as a bunch of tough guys, us metal guys are, at the end of the day, man, we're really just a bunch of kids, who all wanted to just go out and hang out together. Sure.
Now, Mike, you especially, who's in, I think, every band known to man, there's got to be some sort of difficulty when you have this many musicians, to match up schedules so that you can play even like one or two shows like you guys are doing now with the Anaheim show and then the upcoming Shiprock cruise. How difficult is it, and how do you guys get everybody, because there's like 20 guys, how do you get everybody all on the same page to schedule a gig or two gigs or a few gigs?
Yeah, I mean, scheduling is tough. I mean, like David said, it started with the core four, which was David, Frankie, Charlie, and myself. So we start with trying to make sure at least we can get all four of the core or most of the core together, and then from there we build. So some of these gigs have been 4 people, some of them have been 10 people, some of them, like the one we did on the motorboat, was up to about 15 people. I mean, it works good when you're on a cruise like a motorboat, or if you're on a festival, or if you're doing something around the NAMM show where pretty much everybody's congregated in the same area anyway. But, I think we all just love this so much that whenever the opportunity arises, we do whatever we can to be there. I know that's the way it is for me. I mean, this is high on my fun priority list, so if I get the call that we're going to try to do a date, I prioritize it because I have such a blast doing this. For me, these guys get to play metal, all year round. For me, I do lots of different things like in the prog world or whatever. So this is like my metal playground. So I'm having a total blast with it. But it's a hard thing to schedule, but we all do our best because we love it. It's a labor of love for all of us involved.
Right. Now, I have to imagine that the set list itself is difficult to put together because you have so many different guys from so many different, not only different bands, but different styles. Obviously, as an example, Charlie and Mike, two very different bands that they're in. And Alex, you're probably one of the most diverse guys in the whole thing that could probably pick up anything. But how does the set list come together? And how do you end up getting enough time to rehearse and learn these tunes, Alex?
Well, I think with in my case, I'm pretty new to this. I sort of came on board in the middle of a set list being put together, and one thing I've noticed, there's certain tunes that pretty much everybody can agree on. I noticed when I've chosen tunes to arrange as a cover for my jazz group, for example, if I pick a Kiss song, there's a certain group of Kiss songs that everybody's going to agree upon, and it's nobody's going to have a problem with the classics, and it's kind of like that here. If we know we need to do a Judas Priest song, nobody's going to suggest Turbo and say, "Oh, how come we're not doing that song? Damn it!" You know what I mean? Right. And then there's other ones. Oh, yeah, of course, that's in this. And I think when you put together all the bands being covered, that's just one example. I mean, most bands have a song or two that probably wouldn't find their way into an essential set list. So you narrow it down to the essentials, and then there's so many songs. There's no problem with who wants to play on what, because there's just an abundance of material. And so I think it's actually fun putting the set list together.
Cool. Now, you guys have played some shows as Metal Allegiance, and David, you've played shows in not necessarily in Metal Allegiance, but in similar type projects, like the Hail thing that you did with Ripper, as an example, where you did it wasn't as many people and it wasn't as diverse, but it was still playing the tunes that you love. When you do that and you get out in front of an audience, is it a different vibe than, say, when you get out there and at a Megadeth show and you play, Peace Cells or Train of Consequences or what have you, that just gets everybody on board?
Sure. No, it absolutely is a different vibe. I mean, it's funny, Hail was kind of the precursor to all this stuff, and what we found with that was just four guys, and occasionally we'd have a guest in a certain culture come up and jam with us. But that was really designed as just four guys who would go tour and go kind of to the far reaches of the planet and take metal to, these towns in Chile and, up in Stavanger, Norway, and, to take metal to these places where bands like Megadeth and Testament are never going to go. They're these small, tiny little towns. So that one had a totally different mission to it. Metal Allegiance, so far, has been really this big congregation of all of the guys in the neighborhood all getting together and throwing this big, huge throwdown, and I think, the cool thing with Allegiance is that I think it could probably do both, because now that we did Motorboat, and of course there's, NAMM is coming up, and everybody's going to be there, and not just, the core of us, but people, a lot of different metal musicians from different countries are going to be there. So Winter NAMM is going to open up a whole other opportunity for a whole bunch of other people to potentially participate on this, So I think the thing we're looking at now moving forward is the phone's ringing for us to go to Europe and South America and over to Australia and the Pacific Rim, go all the places where our bands would tour anyway. Mm-hmm. Because they want to see it. They want to be in on it because it really is. It's this fun event, So we're looking at how we can do that. Of course, people are asking us to write songs. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that are just blowing up now. You know what I mean? So it's really turned in from just being kind of a one-time fun thing to this just ongoing event. When the phone rings, you answer it. And unfortunately, the phone's ringing like crazy right now for this thing. It's really cool.
Very cool. Well, guys, let me ask you one question each about your main projects, and I know which one I'm not supposed to ask, Dave, so you don't have to start cringing in your seat. But
Very kind of you. Thank you.
I'll start with Mike, and I'll just point out, Mike, I don't even know if you realize, but since 2013, you have 9 official releases that you've played on.
Since 2013?
Since 2013. Yeah. So in 1 year, there's 9 records that you've played on. So
wow.
I'm curious, what is your priority for 2015 going forward as your main project?
Well, I just got to start by saying I do this and I work as much as I do because I'm a music fan and a music lover. I do it. I don't do it because I'm a glutton for punishment. I do it because I just love music dearly, like any of you or your listeners. So, I'm just passionate about it. But anyway, the plans for this upcoming year, the Winery Dogs is my main priority. We're going to start a new album in January. Who knows when it'll come out, but whenever it comes out, then we'll begin that tour cycle, and that will be, that'll keep us busy for the most part of the year. I have some dates coming up with the Neil Morris Band, which is more of a prog thing, and that album comes out in February. And then Metal Allegiance. I want to give as much time and energy as I can into Metal Allegiance in 2015 because I love doing it. And like I said earlier, this is my conduit into the metal world. Of everything I do have on the plate right now, this is the only thing that's really got its feet in the metal world, which is a huge, huge part of my life and my love of music. So this, to me, is a really fun thing that I want to give as much time and energy as possible into in the coming year and beyond.
Excellent. And Alex, with you obviously always busy, always doing various projects, always having seemingly 2 or 3 projects going on at once, and in addition with Chuck, Billy also having, moving more into the band management thing. Obviously, Exodus is the big first one that's been announced, and that's going to take some of his time as well. Does that mean that Testament is kind of going to slow down a little bit, or are there big plans for Testament coming up in 2015, or what?
Yeah, well, I think it's all, this stuff is always record cycle dependent.
Okay.
If you looked at us, and right after the reunion happened, our first recording, our first post-reunion recording in 2008, things were really crazy, and then it slowed down for a bit, and then things got crazy with the first year of the next record. So we are planning a new record, but to me, I've always looked at the big picture, and that's a part of what I do. I'm very proud of that, but it's not all I do. And for me, this Metal Allegiance is really fun because usually outside of Testament, what I do is not metal,
right?
And not in a demeaning way. It's just not metal. It's very different genres. So this is a lot of fun for me to do a metal project. That isn't Testament. That also doesn't have the pressures of are you going to top your last album? What are you what's your market demographic? Are you going to go? This is just very fun and very organic. So I'm looking forward to this. But I'm also very busy with my solo stuff. And once the next Testament album comes out, I'll be busy with that too.
Sure. And David, for you, certainly with everything that's gone on in the last week and a half with Megadeth, it seems, outside looking in, it seems like Megadeth is probably for the minute on hold while that all sorts itself out. So what does that leave you doing musically? Is it going to be strictly working with Metal Allegiance, or do you have other irons in the fire, or what?
My attitude is play music I like with people I like. End of story, And I guess I kind of came to that conclusion about 10 years ago as I was involved in a lot of other things outside of Megadeth at that time. And, look, I'm glad to be back with Megadeth. We worked really, really hard over the last almost 5 years. From the day I came back, we went straight into the rehearsals for the Rust in Peace 20th anniversary, and we never looked back. I mean, we have just been going nonstop until just the last couple of months. And, and obviously lineup changes and things like that happen, you really have to kind of reevaluate everything. We are scheduled to go in and start a new Megadeth record after the first of the year, with that to release later in 2015 and touring to take on from there. So, in kind of an ironic way, if there's going to be changes, it's definitely better that it happens when you're off the road than in the middle of a tour.
Sure.
So we're lucky, because we've had that happen over the years too, where members just, that's it. They need to move on and they have to do it in the middle of the tour. And boy, that is really, you've really got your back against the wall. So we do have a little bit of a luxury of time right now, and I think the fans know, just from our work ethic and the quantity of material that we've been, working on over the last bunch of years. I mean, I think Megadeth is this, it's Megadeth is just never going to go away. It's just always going to be there. I realized that years ago. It's like, you know what, we've kind of outlived anything we thought we were going to do, and in a way, Megadeth has kind of outlived us. You know what I mean? Meaning that it's bigger than any one of us, and it's bigger than even the four of us. The fans, because we're now in our actually heading into our fourth decade, and I see it in the shows. In the front row, there's these teenagers who have just discovered Megadeth. Maybe at Hot Topic at the mall or something. I don't know. And then, then in the back of the hall, there's people that have been there for 10, 15 years, and up in the rafters are all the people who are like my age who don't want to get their head kicked in the mosh pit anymore.
Right.
And it's a cool legacy to see. That it's organically grown beyond anything probably we would have ever imagined. And I think now a lot of it is just kind of just be a good steward of it. Be a custodian of it, take care of it. Be there for the fans, and maybe that doesn't necessarily mean that Megadeth is just going to always be out there hitting it, tour after tour, month after month, like we have been. At least certainly this next year, we're not going to be. We're definitely going to be off the road, and that opens up some opportunities to hang out with my buddies, and hang out with my friends in Metal Allegiance, and again, I kind of try to leave some room in my schedule for the, when the phone rings, leave a little time open so that you can go do some other things, because. Similar to Mike Portnoy and Alex Skolnick, who are involved in a lot of different things. I started, I was one guy in one band for 20 years, and then it came to the point where Megadeth had disbanded back in 2002, and that opened up that season where I got to have a lot of different things and play with a lot of different people, and it's cool. I think it makes me a better Megadeth musician if I get some time away from it once in a while as well to go do some other things and hang out with my buddies and just have those musical experiences, And I think the fans appreciate it. They like it. At this point at our ages and stuff, I think our fans like to see us doing other stuff, especially when we're hanging out with other buddies in the neighborhood,
Right.
Yes, Alex. I'm just going to add with Chuck. I think Chuck's really come into his own as well with the management thing and with Testament. We've had these. Gotten credit for some elaborate productions, and that's all him. He's gotten really into the stage production side of things, and I think him being part of this is great too, because when you're in a band, it is very closed off, and especially when you're in the incubation period, the first few years, and as you mature. I think it's good for everybody to sort of have an identity outside of the band. One of my favorite examples is like if you look at the Beatles. If you didn't know the Beatles, you think they all look the same. You wouldn't be able to tell them apart the first few years,
right?
Like the "She Loves You" period, and then the end of the Beatles, you can tell they're all completely different. So to me, that like the Beatles, they sort of represent what happens. You can kind of, by looking at the Beatles, you can see what happens with bands as they build it.
Right. Definitely. Well, guys, for now, the fans can check all three of you out, as well as a plethora of other famed musicians doing the Metal Allegiance. There's 2 gigs that I know of booked. There's the one in Anaheim coming up, and then there's, of course, the Shiprocked Cruise. So, guys, why don't you, one at a time, give your plugs real quick and tell people where they can find out more about what you're doing and Metal Allegiance.
Okay, so David Ellefson here. Yeah, just davidellefson.com is where all my information is, metalallegiance.com as well. And, of course, everybody's on Facebook and Twitter, so you can use those same handles there.
Yeah, Mike Portnoy, MikePortnoy.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. You can't open up your laptop without me infiltrating your world, so look out.
Nice.
Me too. I'm everywhere. Yeah. Alex Skolnick, AlexSkolnick.com, also part of Metal Allegiance. And my new project, my new acoustic world project, PlanetaryCoalition.com, has its own website. Check that out as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'll let Mr. Portnoy pick a closing track. Mike, what should we end this interview with to send people out?
Oh man, you want something from one of our bands, or what?
It could be whatever band you want. It could be the Who. That's fine.
Turbo, dude.
Oh God, I don't know. How about the cool thing about Metal Allegiance is that it shows the history of metal. It starts, you're getting a call from Mom and Dad, Mark. It starts with Sabbath and Zeppelin and Purple and Priest and Maiden, and you hear the evolution go all the way to Slayer and Pantera and Sepultura. So let's start with the beginning, a Sabbath tune. How about Black Sabbath from the album Black Sabbath? That's where it all began.
All right. Well, let's check it out right now. It's a lot of Black Sabbaths right here on your Classic Metal Show.